Since ancient times, rope has been one of the main tools for hunting, fighting and traveling. Today we will learn about the remnants of rope skills in Japan. A person needed to disarm prey, animal or human, and tie it tightly. In order to obtain a captive, a ransom. Hence the variety of Jitsu techniques based on immobilizing the opponent. Cuffs and grabs, painful holds on a person. The important role of rope in Japan has been evident since the Jomon period. This is from about 10,000 BC. A term which incidentally means marked by ropes. Hunters and gatherers decorated their boats, houses, and jars with intricate knots and weaving of rope. For good luck. For harmony in life. To hold life, goodness, harmony. Hence the weaving of the ancient knots of life. One of the simple devices in this was the rope. It was worn on the body in various places. But the most common is to use the rope as a belt around the waist, and often it was wrapped around the scabbard. A knot and rope is used to attach a sword to a belt. Whether warrior or monk, peasant or hunter, rope helped to live in any situation. It's a simple household item. That's what makes rope so valuable. Without being a weapon, it was a good help in battle and afterwards. That's why rope work was part of the mandatory training for samurai. Or any family school in the old days before the Tokugawa era. Secrecy is not just a tool of domination, but a guarantee that those who have access to this knowledge will use it appropriately. Secrecy as a means of protecting power. One who crosses the threshold of a school assumes responsibility to the generations of masters who preceded him. In the traditional Japanese arts, this has been repeated over the centuries, ensuring the preservation of these arts and sometimes the opposite on their disappearance. There are several anecdotes of secrecy that circulate among practitioners. One anecdote is told by Osano Jun, a master of Jitsu. When the master died, his students decided to declassify the secret book of his martial arts school. This book had been passed down from teacher to student for generations. However, the book was under a severe spell. Anyone who read it without permission would be blinded. Then 2 head students were chosen, and by closing a different eye each, they read the school's secret manuscript. For centuries, Hojo Jitsu remained hidden in the martial arts training of samurai, ninja and warrior monks of the Shigendo and Yamabushi. The rope was usually of good quality, made of very strong softly woven fibers, which were then twisted 3 at a time into a thin rope. It was also considered very useful to let the rope soak in blood. Such blood-soaked rope could be stored for years without rotting processes. Another method was to soak the finished rope in the binding juice of unripe persimmons. This was a softer rope for binding, but it tended to rot more quickly and tended to disintegrate. Therefore, it was used to bind women. Each rope, depending on its use, was dyed with natural dyes and protected with beeswax, horse or whale oil. In the old days, the ropes made by the monks of Hojo temple were the most valued. The ropes were of different diameters, but the basic is from 3 to 8 millimeters. The word Hojo is made up of the hieroglyph Ho meaning to catch, capture, and the hieroglyph Jo meaning rope, and of course the word Jitsu meaning art or skill. Over time, the ancient art of capturing captives evolved into police work. So gradually the art passed from samurai to people of lower caste. This is also due to the long interval of peace and the absence of army-on-army battles. When prisoners were held captive, they were bound in certain ways, according to their rank and social status. Each way of binding denoted what class of society the prisoner came from. Each was bound in a recognizable way. If a person was found guilty of a certain offense, he was bound in a way that denoted the offense he had committed. Because the style of binding depended on both the offense and the status of the prisoner, the length of rope used varied considerably. Some ropes ranged from 30 centimeters to 9 meters in length. Most Hojo Jitsu ropes were made of tightly twisted linen beaten to softness. The white rope denoted someone who had committed a minor crime, while the blue rope was used to fix criminals who had committed serious crimes. If the person was of high rank, purple rope was sometimes used. But if he was of low rank, black rope was used. There were many martial arts schools that utilized rope tying techniques. In addition to the actual tying skills, the schools used various throwing and holding techniques that complemented the art of Hojo Jitsu. In modern Japan, there are very few masters who are proficient in the traditional art of Hojo Jitsu. The art of Hojo Jitsu is not yet extinct in Japan. Modern police still carry a special rope that can be used to tie up prisoners. In the old schools of Japan, any pair work ended with tying up the opponent and methods of moving him safely. Hojo Jitsu was never practiced as an art in itself, but was seen as a supplement to jujitsu and weapons techniques. Havanawa rope means fast rope. It is short and comes in lengths from 1 meter to 1 meter 80 centimeters. For example, the distance between two outstretched arms of a person. The length of the rope depended on what school the technicians came from. Some ropes had a loop at the end, a cobra's head, and some had a metal hook. In the old days it was considered very shameful to be tied up. Some considered it worse than death itself. But if the rules of tying and the knot system were followed, it was considered commonplace and did not affect the honor of the person or the family. Rope techniques fall into three categories: quick tie, basic tie, and full body tie. Sanjaku Nawa was very commonly used, a 90 cm rope. When making a 90 cm rope, it should not be thicker than the thumb. The ropes were of 4 colors, the meaning of which changed over time. According to the earliest tradition, the 4 colors were associated with the 4 seasons and the 4 directions of light, as well as the 4 guardian spirits. The color of the rope changed according to the season, and the prisoner was confined in the direction corresponding to the color and season. Blue rope is spring, east, left, dragon. Red is summer, south, ahead, phoenix bird. White is fall, west, right, tiger animal. Black is winter, north, and turtle. The rope is compared in the practices of Yamabushi and Shugendo to the breath. The length of your breath is the length of your spiritual rope. The longer your rope breath, the stronger you are and the stronger you are. Methods of winding a fast rope. A loop is wound around the thumb of the left hand once. Then the rope is wound around the little finger and then around the thumb again. This continues until about 1.5 meters remain. The remainder is wound around the bundle to tie it into a skein. Another method, if you have a large loop, is to put the loop around your wrist and wrap the rope around your hand. When there is a length of arm left, wind it around the bundle. Quick handcuffs make 2 6 cm long handles out of hardwood and connect them with a 50 to 55 cm long rope. As with the quick rope that you wrap around your wrists, make a space between your hands and tightening the rope. Wrap it around yourself several times before tucking the handles between your wrists. There are about 133 rope tying techniques. Many masters know only a few of them. Hojo Jitsu is one of the classic 18 weapons of war, the 18 martial arts a warrior must know. Although the rope arts are part of the techniques a warrior must know, they are in danger of being lost in the sands of time. Legend has it that the art of rope work was brought to Japan by the sun goddess Amaterasu. It was she who passed on the first rope to man and the practice of the 7 rope techniques. The 48 hands technique. The rope had 9 knots and represents the 7 heavenly bodies in the sky, and Rahu is the solar eclipse, and Ketu, lunar eclipse. The master of Hojo Jitsu is a priest. He is the personification of the deity Fudo Myoho, who is in the process of imprisoning a demon. In the 20th century, the art of sexual tying shibari or kinbaku was created based on the old art. The tied man is a picture where the rope and the energy of the person is alive and we see the diversity of their manifestations. You could say that knot tying is in the very nature of the Japanese. They walk, sit and sleep on tatami mats woven from rice straw, they tie belts around their waists, obi. Sandals with knots and headbands, tenugui. They wrap gifts with intricate knots. They wrap their trees and sacred with thick ropes of rice straw. And in the past they wore elaborate armor fastened together with knotted cords. And hung the legendary sword katana on their hips with a knot on the rope, seijo. With the advent of technology, man has turned away from his true nature, his body, his feelings, his reflexes, and his impulses. Martial arts training becomes a way to return to everything that evolution has forged us for. It will take him years of hard work to understand what his body is, what its resources and limitations are, and what its hidden potential is. He will learn how his mind works, how it reacts to certain stimuli, how quickly it can make decisions, what powers, what fears and what monsters lurk within it. In this way he can work on both mind and body to achieve the changes that will make him a better person, a happier person. I will finish with the words of an old master. The feeling of the rope going through my hands as I imprison another person forces me to face who I really am. How much pleasure will I derive from the pain of others? In the next clips we will definitely look at sexual binding, dark world philosophy. And now, everyone have a nice rest and positive.